So I'm going to prepare the ground for sowing my carrots. The soil in this bed is a little bit lumpy, so first of all I'm going to just break down the big lumps. You can use a fork for this, but I like this old-fashioned cultivating tool. It's brilliant for all sorts of jobs, and I'm just breaking down the biggest lumps here. I haven't added any manure or garden compost to this bed because for most root crops it's not advisable, because any little chunky bits that are left in the soil that haven't broken down will cause the roots to fork. So this is just soil that I've dug over, but I haven't added anything to. The next step, once you've got the larger lumps out, is to rake it down to what we call a very fine tilth, so that we can sow our seeds into it. Again, I've got to break down some of the medium-sized lumps here. A little tip: if you're struggling to break down big lumps of soil, I simply shovel them up and put them on the potato bed, where I don't need to prepare the soil as finely. I mean, this soil is quite nice, it breaks down quite nicely, but on heavy soils it can be difficult to get a very fine tilth. So I'm just putting these to one side for now, and I'll probably remove them later if I can't break them down. There's one or two stones there too, and it's quite important for root crops that you try and remove any large stones out of the soil as well. We're going to sow the carrots in between. You can see from here that in between some rows of existing onions. These are my winter onions, also known as Japanese onions. They're going to give me an early crop. I'm going to also plant some main crop onions in a couple of weeks, which will give me a later crop of onions. Onions and carrots, or onions and parsnips, other root crops, make a very good companion, because the main pests that you get with carrots are the carrot root fly. They fly along the surface of the soil. They're attracted to the carrots by the smell, and they then lay their eggs at the base of the young plant. And when the larvae hatch, they eat into the roots of the carrots and parsnip, obviously spoiling the harvest for you. So the female carrot root fly finds her way around by smell, and if you plant strong smelling plants alongside, such as onions, garlic, coriander, leeks, chives, this will actually help to mask the smell. The carrot root fly has two main seasons, one in May and one later in the year. So these onions are going to help to prevent the early attack. I've put a string line out, and I've made sure that string line is really nice and tight, because this is going to be a guide for me to make my drill. And you can see I'm making a shallow indentation or drill in the ground here with the edge of my rake. You can use a bamboo cane, or a stick, or another tool, just to scratch into the soil as straight as you possibly can. Usually you want it about 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters deep, no deeper than that. And this method is useful for nearly all of your root crops. A lot of your quick growing salads, your fast growing salads like rocket and loose leaf lettuce, radish, beetroot, etc. I'm just going over that because it didn't quite make an even drill all the way along. So I'm just actually using my plant label there to scratch out the places that I've missed. So next I'm going to sow my seeds into the drill. This is a main crop carrot, and St. Valerie is the name. I particularly like this one because it has really good flavour. Main crop carrots you can leave in the ground and harvest them as you want to from sort of midsummer onwards. I've actually left mine in the ground throughout the whole winter and only very recently removed the last few. Um, you can cover them up with straw just to make sure that they don't get any frost damage during the winter. But basically, main crop carrots you harvest at the towards the end of the summer. You can lift the whole lot and put them in storage, but I find it's just as easy to leave them in the ground and pick them when you want them. You could also be sowing early carrots where you get the little baby roots such as early Nantes and Chantenay Redcore. They're two examples of little baby carrots that you can harvest throughout sort of late spring and into the summer. But these are a main crop. I use them for grating into salads and soups, etc. It has a very good flavour on our acid soil. Um, I've sprinkled them very, very lightly into that drill. Don't overdo it because you're going to have to thin them out anyway. You really want to end up with one plant about every 7 to 10 centimeters for main crop, because if they're too close together, you'll only get very tiny little roots and they all um, tangle up with each other. So I'm now covering the seeds back over with some fine soil, and I'm also raking out my footprints. Very important. Never leave footprints. Um, so I'm raking over, and what I've done here, you might just be able to see, I'm tamping down the soil on top of them because you need really good contact with the soil. I'm going to sow another row actually where I'm raking at the moment. You need to leave just slightly wider than the width of your hoe between rows so that you can hoe in between rather than hand weeding. With a plot this size, you don't want to be picking out seedlings with your hands. You can just flash over with a hoe on a dry day. So I'm just finishing off making sure the soil's nice and fine on top of them, and also on the place where I'm going to sow the next row. Make sure all my footprints are out and it's nice and fine again. So that's one row of main crop carrots nicely sown. I'm not going to water these because I'm just going to wait for it to rain. If I water it, I'm then committed to keep watering, because if the surface dries out, then the germinating seeds can die.